We're going to go ahead and take a look at writing linear equations. Linear means equations of lines. There are two common formulas that we use for writing lines. You're probably familiar with the slope-intercept formula, where m is your slope times x plus b, where b is your y-intercept. Y equals mx plus b. There's another common formula, and that's the point slope formula. You go y minus the y-coordinate of the point you're given, equaling m, and then in parentheses x minus the x-coordinate of the point you're given. In both of these equations, your normal x's and the normal y's are left alone. You don't do anything to them. But your m becomes a number, your b becomes a number, and also the x sub 1 and the y sub 1 become numbers for your point. Now, all lines are going to have an x and a y left in them for their final answer unless it's a vertical line or a horizontal line. So here we want to go ahead and find the equation of a line that has a slope of -3/5 and a point. Since you're given a point and a slope, we're going to want to go ahead and use your point slope formula. So here's your point slope formula. We need to go ahead and plug in our slope right here for m. So put -3/5 in front of the parentheses. Then instead of writing x sub 1, we got to go to our point and find the x-coordinate, which is 5, and plug that in. And then instead of writing y sub 1, we got to go to our point, find our y-coordinate, which is -2, and plug that in. Then we want to go ahead and just get y on one side by itself. So we'll get rid of the parentheses. Subtracting in negative is really like plus 2. Distribute through your -3/5. A negative onto a negative is positive, and 3/5 of 5 is 3. And then we've got to just subtract 2 from both sides, and we get the equation of our line. Here we want to go ahead and find the equation of a line that's going between these 2 points. Well, whether you use y equals mx plus b or your point slope formula, they both need to have m in them. So in other words, you need to know your slope first. So if you don't know your slope, that's the first thing you want to find out. So you want to go the change in your y's, 7 minus -3, over the change in your x's, the -3 minus the 2. Simplify the top, simplify the bottom. Then all we have to do is just go ahead and divide. Now that we have our slope, and then we actually have a couple of points to choose from. So we're going to use our point slope formula since we have a slope and a point. Now which point we choose does not make a difference. Your final answer will be the same either way. So you can use whichever point you want. So let's go y minus the y value or y coordinate of our first point. I just chose that. I could have used the other one, would not have made a difference. Equaling our slope, which we just figured out is -2. And then x minus the x-coordinate of our point that we have right here at the beginning. Then all we're going to do is get y by itself, so get rid of the parentheses. Then we'll go ahead and subtract 3 from both sides, and we have our equation of our line. Now, on this one, we want it to be perpendicular to this line, and then go through this point. Well, we know that slopes of perpendicular lines are opposite reciprocals of each other. So the first thing we have to do is to go ahead and find the slope of this line. So to find that, let's go ahead and get y by itself. So let's go ahead and subtract 3x from both sides. And now we end up with this. Now we got to go ahead and get rid of the 2. So we got to go ahead and divide both sides by 2. Then we look at what's left. Your slope is what's in front of your x value when y is by itself. So our slope is -3/2. But since we want perpendicular, we don't want to use negative 3 over 2. You want to flip the fraction upside down and then change the sign. So our slope is going to be 2/3. So we have our slope of 2/3 and we have a point. Therefore, we're going to want to use our point slope formula since we have both of those. So you're going to go y minus the y coordinate of your point, which is our 5, equaling your slope that we figured out to be negative 2/3. And then go in parentheses x minus the x coordinate of our point. Distribute through. And then we'll have to go ahead and add 5 to both sides. So we could do a common denominator here. We have negative 8/3, and then 5 is really 15/3. So negative 8/3 plus 15/3 is 7/3 for your y-intercept. On this one here, we want the equation of a line that's parallel to this one here, and then going through this point. So we have our point. Now, in this case, our y is on one side all by itself, so we don't need to go ahead and do any work ahead of time. When y is by itself, the number in front of x is your slope, so our slope is 3. Since you have a point and a slope, use your point slope formula. So we'll go y minus the y coordinate of your point, equaling your slope times x minus the x coordinate of your point. And then we want to go ahead and distribute through to get rid of the parentheses so that we can get y by itself. And then we want to get y totally by itself by adding 5 to both sides.